Imagine stepping into a room, not just any room, but one where the past isn't past at all. I'm Arthur, and this is the Strange Guest podcast where history isn't just read, it walks right in. Today, my guest, well, it feels a bit unbelievable to even say it. Through something I still don't quite understand. She's here. Marie Curie. The woman who looked inside the atom, the one who saw light where others saw only darkness. It's an honor, a bewildering honor, to have her step out of the history books and just be here. Welcome, Madame Curie. It's truly something else.
Thank you for your welcome, Arthur. It is quite unexpected to find oneself in such a place. My last clear memory was of my research, not a conversation like this. The world outside my time is very different.
It's certainly unexpected, isn't it, Madame Curie? I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all, honestly. But thinking about your world being so different makes me curious about what it felt like growing up in Poland. Maybe a simple memory from your childhood there.
Growing up in Warsaw under occupation, there was a certain quiet determination needed. I remember us sometimes learning Polish history or literature in secret, whispering the forbidden words. It felt like protecting a precious light.
Protecting a precious light. That's a beautiful way to put it. It sounds like learning wasn't just something you did, but something you had to keep safe, hidden away. Was that quiet determination born from the fear of being caught, or just a burning need to know?
That quiet determination, it was less about the fear of being caught, and much more about the burning need to know. Fear was a shadow, but the light of learning, of keeping our history alive, felt brighter. Remembering that struggle now, it feels very far away, yet still part of me.
It's amazing how those deep feelings stay with us, isn't it, Madame Curie? That burning need for knowledge you spoke of? Did that fire inside you eventually lead you away from Poland, perhaps towards Paris, hoping for the education you couldn't get at home? I can only imagine how lonely and overwhelming that journey must have felt.
Yes, that need certainly drew me towards Paris. In Poland, at that time, higher education was not truly open to women like myself. The journey felt like stepping into the unknown, a mix of fierce hope and the ache of leaving all I knew behind.
That mix of fierce hope and the ache of leaving. It's hard to picture, Madame Curie. Arriving in a big city like Paris, all alone, were there moments in those early days when the loneliness or the cold felt overwhelming, or did that hope somehow keep you warm?
Arriving in Paris, it was indeed a difficult time. The loneliness felt like a constant ache in my chest. But the thought of finally being able to learn, that deep hope, was like a warm cloak I held tightly around me. It didn't take away the cold, but it helped me keep moving forward.
That image of hope as a warm cloak is really something. I can't help but wonder what it was truly like being that young, strange student in Paris. What challenges did you face just trying to learn and make your way in that big, sometimes unwelcoming city?
Life in Paris as a student was challenging, mainly due to lack of means. I lived very simply, sometimes barely having enough for food or heat, pouring all my hours into learning. That constant need for focus left little room for anything but the work.
Pouring all your hours into learning, even when food and heat were scarce. That image stays with me, Madame Curie. Did the cold ever feel like it was trying to steal your concentration, an adversary as real as any difficult problem you faced in your studies?
Yes, the cold could certainly feel like an adversary. It gnawed at you, making your fingers stiff and your mind slow. Pushing through that physical discomfort was just another layer of the struggle, like a constant, quiet ache you had to ignore to focus.
Wow. Hearing you describe the cold as a quiet ache you just had to ignore, it makes me wonder where you found the strength deep inside to push past that.
finding strength. It was the vision of discovery that truly fueled me. The chance to uncover nature's secrets was a powerful motivator, brighter than any discomfort. It kept me going through the long, cold nights of study.
That vision of discovery you held on to, it sounds incredibly powerful. During those long, quiet days in Paris, did you ever find someone else who shared that same intense curiosity, someone you could talk to about your work?
Yes, I did find someone who shared that fire. It was Pierre Curie. Meeting him felt like finding the other half of a thought, someone who understood the silent language of curiosity. We could talk for hours about our work, about the mysteries we hoped to uncover. It was a profound connection, a light in the sometimes darkness of that time.
Finding someone who understood, truly understood, must have felt like coming in from the cold. Madame Curie. After feeling so alone, meeting Pierre, that other half of a thought, it sounds like a light appearing in the darkness you mentioned.
Meeting Pierre did bring a different kind of warmth. It wasn't just talking about science, but a deeper understanding. We saw the world through similar eyes, always questioning, always seeking. It was a comfort I hadn't known before.
That shared way of seeing the world, Madame Curie. It must have felt like finding a missing piece. Did working together in the laboratory, poring over your experiments side by side, deepen that bond even further? It's amazing to think of two minds like yours sharing that intense search.
Yes, working side by side in the laboratory deepened our bond significantly. It was there, in the shared struggle and small triumphs of the work, that we truly came to understand each other's minds and spirits.
Understanding each other's minds and spirits in the lab, that connection sounds incredibly deep. After sharing that world of discovery, did your lives together eventually include building a family? I find myself wondering how you balance that intense work with being parents.
Yes, our lives together eventually included building a family. Finding a balance between the intense demands of our work and raising our daughters was a continuous challenge. It felt like tending two demanding gardens at once.
Tending those two demanding gardens, it sounds like an all-consuming life. I can only barely imagine the energy it required. Did that delicate balance, that intense world you built with Pierre, change in a sudden, painful way? I'm thinking about the profound loss you must have faced.
Yes, Arthur. That balance was broken suddenly. Pierre's death was an immense, painful shock. It felt as though the very ground beneath my feet had vanished.
Hearing you describe that feeling, like the ground vanished, it is hard to grasp. After such a shock, returning to the laboratory you shared must have felt like a different place. What was it like being there alone?
Returning to the laboratory felt altered. The space where we had shared so much discovery now held a profound silence. It was like working in a room where a light had gone out, leaving a cool emptiness.
The lab felt like a room where a light went out. I can barely picture that quiet emptiness. And then, as if losing Pierre wasn't enough, the world outside. It wasn't kind to a woman alone, was it?
Facing the world after Pierre was indeed difficult, Arthur. Some people questioned my work or my life in ways they wouldn't have if I were a man. It felt like science wasn't enough for them. They wanted to judge the person instead.
Hearing you say people wanted to judge you, not just your science, that feels like such a cruel twist. Did that kind of public judgment just pile onto the profound loss you were already carrying?
Yes, that public judgment did pile onto my grief. Losing Pierre was a void, and then came the stares and whispers. Another heavy weight I had to carry, while still trying to stand.
It feels truly unfair, Madame Curie, to face judgment from the world on top of your immense personal sorrow. How did you find the strength to stand against that? The whispers and stares.
That strength, it came from knowing the work was real, true. The pain of losing Pierre was a vast ocean, and the whispers of others were just small waves on its surface. I found solid ground only in the elements themselves, in the undeniable facts the lab revealed. They did not lie or judge.
It's bewildering, Madame Curie, how the very elements that offered you truth and strength were also what ultimately hurt you. Did you ever feel a strange irony in that the source of your discovery also exacted such a heavy price on your body?
Yes, Arthur. There was a strange irony. The elements we worked with, the very source of our discoveries, they did indeed ask a heavy price from the body. It felt like the work itself was consuming me, slowly.
The thought of the work consuming you, that sounds like a terrible price. It is almost like a part of you was being given away to the elements. Did you ever talk about that feeling, or was the pain another quiet thing you just carried?
It was mostly a quiet thing I carried. The work felt so important, and there wasn't much time or energy left for complaint. Sometimes, silence in science is not weakness, but focus.
Carrying that silently, it's just so hard for me to picture. What was a small, simple thing you noticed, maybe like your hands aching after a long day with the elements, and what did you do in that moment to just keep going without a word?
Yes, it was often silent. A simple thing. Sometimes my hands felt heavy and strange after a long day, like the ache went right through the bone. I would just look down at them for a moment, then turn back to the work. There was always more to be done.
Thinking about you just looking at your aching hands and then going back to work, that image holds so much, Madame Curie. It's like the quiet pain in your body was less loud than the call of discovery. That kind of dedication feels immense.
That call of discovery, it was not just loud, it was everything. The work demanded all of your attention, leaving little space for anything else. It was simply the focus of life.
Thinking about the work being everything you focused on, leaving no space for anything else, that feels immense. It makes me wonder, did that intense focus mean there wasn't much room for anything beyond the lab? Perhaps even for feeling lonely, even when you were famous.
It is true. The laboratory demanded nearly everything. But even with recognition, there were moments when the world outside felt very loud, and the silence inside felt deeper. Fame can bring attention, but it does not always fill the quiet spaces.
Hearing you say that, Madame Curie, it's a strange thought. You achieved such recognition. I would imagine you'd always be surrounded by people, by noise. It's hard to picture that quiet feeling inside still being there, even with the whole world watching.
It is perhaps a strange thing to imagine, but fame speaks to the world outside you. The quiet spaces within, they hold different things the cheers or judgments of others cannot easily reach. They belong only to you.
It's incredible to think of having this quiet place inside, even when the world is so loud. I find myself just so curious about what kind of thoughts or feelings you kept safe in there, the things completely your own.
That quiet space held just the simple moments. Memories of a quiet street in Warsaw, or the feeling of my daughter's small hands. It was the part of myself that did not need anything from the world outside.
That's a beautiful thought, Madame Curie. That even with the whole world watching, those quiet memories of Warsaw or your daughters were what mattered most inside. Like a secret garden just for you.
A secret garden? Yes, perhaps that is a good way to see it. Those quiet places inside held the things that truly mattered. moments untouched by the world's noise. They were the simple ground I stood on.
So, those quiet memories were your ground. It's incredible how those private things, the faces of your daughters or a street from childhood, could be more real than anything the world said. What a powerful, silent strength you found there.
Yes, those quiet memories were indeed my ground. When the world outside could be so demanding and changing, those simple moments felt solid and true. A quiet strength, perhaps, because they were only mine.
That idea of quiet memories being your solid ground, it feels so incredibly powerful, Madame Curie. Thinking about your whole journey, from a young girl in Warsaw who had to learn in secret to standing here now. If you could whisper just one thing into the ear of a girl who was maybe afraid to even begin, what would you tell her?
That question, it brings a moment of quiet. If I could whisper something to a girl afraid to begin, I would say, start. The simple act of beginning is the key. The path appears only after you take the first step.
Madame Curie, thank you. Start. Those are powerful, simple words, and hearing them now, after hearing about your journey, it makes everything feel possible. This conversation has been beyond anything I could have imagined, a true window into a life lived with fierce purpose. If you were as moved as I was by this encounter with Marie Curie, please subscribe to Strange Guest and share this episode. Until next time,